Today we're going to go over FormAssembly. We're going to introduce FormAssembly, talk about logging in, the general settings, and the forms list. After this, you can move on to building a form. So first, what is FormAssembly? FormAssembly is a form pull that allows you to have forms on your site that create and amend your Congregation Connect database. FormAssembly can also pre-fill with data from Congregation Connect. What we're looking at here is a login page. We will have sent you the login credentials for your organization. If you do not have the login, please contact us. Your organization will only have one login rather than one for each of you. You're welcome to share it between several people. Usually when several admins do share a login, they have a shared inbox as well, so they can receive messages. I'll log in here. Note that when you log in, it will look a little bit different from my view, right? Because I'm looking at the administrator view, but for our purposes, the variations will not be significant. Once you've logged into FormAssembly, you will click on your name, right? And go to the general settings. You can check your time zone. But most importantly, I want to draw your attention to this. You want to make sure that this box is checked. It's important because if there is an issue with the form, having this checked off will ensure that you receive an email notifying you of those errors. If you need to change your contact information or password, check account. Go back to the forms list. Notice, let's start over here on the left-hand side with the forms list. That's what we're looking at here, and we'll go over that in a second. Next down, we have new form. For the most part, you're not going to be creating a form from scratch, but you could. Usually, we will be creating a form, or if you're creating a form, you're going to be cloning a pre-existing form, right? So you'll be grabbing it from the forms list. But should you want to create a form from scratch, straight up, you would start with a new form. Note also we have the template library. Be aware that the template library, while it does have some templates, they're very basic, right? Again, you're for the most part better off starting off with one of your with a form and then cloning it. But be aware that there is a forms library. Now let's look at the forms list. Each of these blocks is a form. Note that each form has an ID, right? Form ID, and has a name. So if you were searching for it, for instance, I just pulled up all the ones with the name Congregation Connect, you would search here. You can change the sort order by clicking on the arrow on the left side. Right? So I have it specifically done by last modified. By default, your sort order is going to be A to Z, but last modified I draw your attention to because it's often one of the most helpful. Right now we're looking at all of our active. There is an area for archived forms. Archived forms are forms that you are no longer using, but you want the legacy information in them. For instance, if you have a school registration form for your previous year, you could clone and modify it for this year's registration, and then you could archive the previous year. The data would still be accessible, but it's not front and center anymore. Additionally, if your form collects payments, you would want to archive so you do not have bots accessing your form and filling it up. For the form blocks, you see there are submissions, responses. For this case, 4 completed, 0 incomplete, so you would see the ones as they're being completed, and also the read or unread, whether or not you've checked those responses. Note we also have the build. We're going to be going into building in our next video. Build is how you'll actually create a form. We'll also go over configure here a little bit later.